dancing in
I'm
on
over
a
here forgetting how
laugh.
to use tech.
It happens. It's just like skating. You get back out there like, "Do I know how to do this? I did. I do."
Do you ever have those moments, like, my brain was in 3 places at once? Like, I was
Mhm,
here dancing with you. I
mhm,
was also doing that move that
mhm,
Sati taught us
mhm.
about
That's right.
unity.
I
So
saw
then
it.
that put me at our volume 1 book signing where we had
Mm,
that great in-person session with Sati while I'm trying to pull down tech. Like, my
mhm,
brain was just like, "Oh, I was in the come back and be present in this
mhm,
present moment."
mm. Welcome back. And
Thank
that's
you.
what we're talking about, right? Physical wellness, being present for soulful wellness. And what I think about when you say that is how some people talk about multitasking, right? But in my undergrad and studying psychology, I learned that we're really just quickly moving between
Mhm.
things very quickly. We're not multiple
True,
places at once, you know what I mean?
right?
But yes, I was just doing the same thing. I said, "Oh, my phone is not on do not disturb. Oh, let me turn off this Spotify music before we go live," you know? So we're here, we're practicing, sharing resources, and working on it on a daily basis.
Right? And
Yeah.
episode 184.
Mm. How you feel
Welcome.
about it? Yes.
Mm. Yeah, get on up there in those numbers. You know I'm excited. Looking
My
towards
goodness.
episode 200. I don't
I
want to
am.
skip over all the ones between
No.
now and then, but I'm grateful to be here today.
And y'all, this one is coming from what, like 2007 to 2011? Because our guest today I went to high school with. So this is a
What?
throwback into the future made from a long time ago, a long time coming for right on time type of
Oh,
situation.
ooh. So coming to you from the ATL today.
Yeah, y'all.
Right?
You
So
wanna go
how
ahead
are you
and
today? You want to do our intro and then get into how we are?
yeah, I think we do it.
Let's
I
do
think
it.
we do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, y'all, I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur, an Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gotro, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon bestselling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of Women Connected in Wisdom Community.
And we like to get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do this,
Mm,
especially right now at this
right?
time in history?
Yeah, when we're talking about being present and this needs your attention and oh, that needs to be done and that's not done. And well, where are you right now? You know, that's the only place you have the opportunity to operate from. And us talking about pouring into ourselves twice as much this year, being really intentional in our self care. That's what I've been going back to in those moments when it's like, this is a lot this past week, you know, well, let me do this for myself. Let me do that for myself and then go back to the drawing board and try again.
Right? One
Yeah.
of the things I've really realized this week, because
Mm,
I try to stay pretty informed and
yeah,
connected, so I
yeah.
know when to call my representatives and what to do and what. And Monday, there were protests all across the nation.
Mhm.
And I had just gotten home from North Carolina
Right.
I was caregiving one of
Yeah.
our Women Connecting Wisdom authors
Yes.
from a knee surgery.
Yeah.
And so I just gotten home and I had friends reach out and were like, "Hey, you going to the protest?" Which, you know, I love showing up and having my voice be heard, and especially with friends and connections and things like that. And it is it is one of those rights, I think, as American people to have like that right of free speech, right? And when I moved to Atlanta, how many years ago I moved to Atlanta now?
Mm,
Probably 15, 16 years ago.
okay. Okay.
It was such a joy to
Mm,
literally protest here because
mm,
based on the foundation of Dr. Martin Luther King and this town and
mhm.
literally still walking amongst giants for
Yes.
civil rights. Like you can
Yes.
be like I met John Lewis when I
That's
moved
what I was
here
thinking
before
about.
he passed away
Yeah.
and Charles Al Lingo, like people
Mm.
that we read about. Well, we did before this. Oh my God, it's so complicated, y'all.
Wow.
But
Not past
that when
tense.
we grew up, we read about them,
Hello.
right?
Yes.
And that we have the privilege to walk among them here
Mm,
in Atlanta. And so, all this to say, my friends were like, "Hey, you coming?" And my
Mhm.
body was a very clear no. My body was like, "Nope, you just got home late.
Yeah.
You have this going on," and
Mhm.
making the commitment to reach out to my representatives and what I want to say and what. And so I was sad. It was that, we talk about in Still Point in the
Mm.
book, we talk about the 5 skills of self care, and
Yes.
one being say yes and no.
Mhm.
And it was one of those moments that I had to say no in order to say yes to other things.
Yeah.
And that's where to me sometimes self-care gets hard.
It
Like
is the
it's like
Mhm.
because I wanted to be in all the places at once, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yep.
yeah,
And
that's
what
what I'm
comes up for me when you say that is the Friendsgiving, right? And you said, "And Tracy was there." I'm like, "Dang." And Tracy was at they were at the forest, right? And Joe was there, the babies was there. It's like, I missed that one too. It's just like sometimes you just have to, say no so you can keep going. So I'm with you.
right.
I
And it
understand.
is, I think, in these times
Yeah.
too. But
Mhm.
one of the things self-care wise I've really been realizing this week,
Mhm.
yes, Stephanie, and no is a complete answer. Absolutely it is. Thank you for that. I One of the other things I've realized, especially with the amount of stuff that is being thrown at us right now,
Mhm.
I think I have to have a timer on my phone to like that we're in sleep mode or get
Mhm.
off the news or get off
Mhm.
the socials,
Okay.
um, so I can sleep. Like I've
Mhm.
realized my sleep's being disturbed right now
Okay.
because of the dismantling of our government,
Hmm. Let's take a moment. Wow.
right?
So if we daydream or evening dream, right? Evening dream.
Don't have me close my eyes, I'm gonna fall asleep.
It's hey, the both of us wake up at episode 185, like, "What happened?" Okay? Um, but what time would that be? What time if you're
Oh,
engaged, right? What time
mm,
is that at night? And then what time are
mhm,
you clocking back in? Because and not clocking in as far as into the information, that's how I think about it.
right,
Okay, now I'm
right,
on. It's off of just my time in my bubble because it's not gonna be
mhm,
that first hour when you make sure that the sun is on your face that we
mhm,
talked about, right? So,
mhm.
what do you think?
I think at least 2 hou for me personally, I think it needs to be
Mhm.
2 hours before bed. Because
Okay.
I realize, like, when I do an activity or when I'm engaged because,
Mhm,
like, what happened last night is I was
mhm.
reading something and I felt like I needed to reach out and say something or put it on my to-do list to do it, and so then my brain woke up, right?
Yeah, right.
So then I'm up
Mhm.
midnight, and then I'm up
Yeah.
4 a.m. I'm
Yep.
like, "What
It's
is
been 3.
happening
I'm like this,
here?"
"Is this the new time? 3 o'clock? Okay." Yeah, I'm with you.
And and
Yeah.
we have to take care of ourselves in
Mhm.
order to sustain and thrive in community care. And we're
Right?
talking about physical wellness today.
Yeah.
And I know we're on a little bit of a left turn, but I think
Mm,
this is about it,
yeah,
right?
it
Like,
is.
how do we sustain ourselves in order to thrive?
Yes.
Not just in the good times, but when times aren't good,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like when we're stressed out or haven't
Mhm.
had enough sleep, or how do we do that, right?
Right, and I was thinking about you with that last week too. You were talking about your routines when you travel, right?
Mhm.
So, is there a travel routine that you can set up that's like, this is
Ooh,
your at-home routine, and then when you
mhm.
travel, you switch to this? Is there something that you could do to couple
Oh,
it
I
how
got to
you like to do?
I gotta get that sorted
Yeah.
because it's about to hit, even though it's not on my big calendar because I'm avoiding it. Like,
Mhm.
we're already at the end of February. I'm like, "What is happening here?
But we're not at the
2025?"
end of February, we're still in the middle, Christine. The end is what you put up. Put it up in my
Alright,
calendar. We need to fill out this week too. We're in the middle of it,
alright.
okay? I'm right there with you, okay? But go ahead and that's why earlier, y'all, we had to do it, right? We thought we were gonna be here. It's February 19th, 2025, and guess what? On some tasks, we're not where we thought we would be. Okay? Go ahead and reset that. Go ahead and reset that timeline. Because the first one, it didn't hit right. It didn't hit where you thought it would. So now let's reset it. And now we can start from the beginning. It
Where
feels
we
like we're
truly
starting
are.
from the exactly from where we really are,
Yeah.
being present, right? And resetting that feeling of, oh, I'm behind. Oh, I'm behind. Oh, I
Mhm.
because then you that's where you live. And I don't want to live
Mm,
there. Mm-mm,
mm.
that's stressful. What are you gonna say?
When we were on air last week, had I
Yes.
gone and seen the cranial sacral guy yet?
Yes, we talked about it, and
Oh,
that's when I learned about it.
that physical wellness reset was still hanging out with me a week later. like
Good.
that reset of the body work and the physical symptoms, right? Um, I was thinking about that in the middle of the night when my shoulders were like up to my ears, and I was like, "Woo!" Right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, let's talk. Let me shout out, if you're okay, the definition of physical wellness that we're working from today, so our listeners
Yes.
can hear it.
Let's
And
do it.
before we bring our guest up here, does that work for you?
Okay. Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. So, physical wellness, y'all, according to Women Connected in Wisdom, is the ability to maintain a quality of life that allows you to thrive in your daily activities without undue fatigue or physical stress. Physical wellness recognizes that our daily choices, habits, and behaviors have an impact on our overall health, well being, and quality of life.
Mm,
What was the daily habit you did today for your physical wellness?
mm. Went outside and took a deep breath. And not
Mm.
just the first time, but I had to do it again. And I went back outside, okay, and looked at the birds again and took another deep breath and another sip of water and
Right,
okay. Yeah.
right.
What about you?
I would say this morning it was green juice,
Yeah.
and I'm on water instead of
Mhm.
tea. Usually there's
Mhm.
caffeine in my cup, and I'm
Mhm.
realized I'm switching to water.
Yeah. Good
So,
job. And
right.
y'all, I have a bigger cup of coffee here, okay? Usually I go for the 12 ounce, and in America, that's a huge cup of coffee. I looked it up, y'all. Apparently, Spain is like 2 ounces. So even our small tot, right? I see our
But I
guest saying,
think it's
"Wow,
really good
it's
coffee.
it's really." So I
In
got the
Spain.
20
Let's
ounce
go
today.
try. Let's go
Okay,
to
that
Spain and try it.
I will keep you to
We'll
that. We have
report back to our
we got
people.
a whole traveling list and a list of expert guests for you guys, okay?
Right?
But I got the 20 ounce today, Christine, and guess what? It's gonna be okay, and it's fine.
Good.
We're starting cohort 3 tonight. We have an amazing guest expert for everybody today. We have some ladies who are just phenomenal and having to push them into 2025 because we have so many expert guests in front of them. So, when you talk about like the difficult things and how do we do it when it's difficult,
Mhm.
and how we present when it's good. It's like both of that and every single day. And remembering to look at the beauty like you talk
Look at the
about
good.
and
Look at
also
the good.
sit when it if it doesn't feel that way,
Mhm.
then sit with that too so you can process it and then completely enjoy the beauty just like you completely process the difficult part.
Yeah, a book just came out for me. I haven't read it yet, but a friend
Mhm,
gave it to me,
mhm,
called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. I'll look it
mm,
up and put in our show notes.
mm,
It's a short book,
mm.
but talking about the sitting with those feelings and how to be with like the grief and the gratitude at the same time. We talk about that often on the show, right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
yeah, there's some really hard stuff happening right now. And we need to also be looking for the good. I
Yes.
think well, I'll do that towards the end of the show. I have a
Okay.
shout out for folks, but I want to make sure I have the right number.
Okay.
Let's do our guest bio and get her
Let's
up
do
here.
it.
Let's
Okay,
do it.
y'all. I am so excited to introduce you guys to our guest expert today. Akili Yasmine has made a significant impact as a fashion model, using her platform to promote self love and representation in the beauty industry. She focuses on commercial, beauty, and lifestyle modeling and has appeared in national commercials, on the reel, and in stores and billboards across major cities. In addition to her modeling career, Akili is passionate about holistic wellness, yoga, and the creative arts. Based in Atlanta, but open to travel, she actively engages with the community by speaking on panels for the 100 Black Men of America, hosting events that encourage self love and inner work, and organizing model retreats to strengthen self worth. Her collaborations with photographers, directors, and agencies reflect her energy and commitment to clean, creative work. Help us welcome to the stage Akili Yasmin.
Hello.
Hi,
Thank you.
Akili.
Woo! Welcome,
Hi.
McKeely.
Welcome.
I'm so grateful to be here. I really am. So thank you so much for the two of you women for giving me this platform to speak and
Absolutely.
share with you guys.
We are so excited you're here.
Hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. We were talking to somebody earlier, Akili, and on our coffee and chats, and this is probably the first time that I had to compose myself and not fangirl out, like for real, for real, for real. Okay. You want to
Mhm.
Go ahead,
Can I
Christine.
tell you I
Yes,
just
I
wanna
want to
tell
know.
you how good of a job you did, Shannon.
Thank
Like,
you.
I would not have held it together as well, like, but I knew I kinda fangirled a little for Shannon because I
Thank
knew
you.
how excited
Yeah.
she was. She was just so composed. I thought, "Man, she's handling this really well." And then afterwards, she did a little dance
We
and,
did
you
a
know
little victory bell, okay? Okay. But just as excited to have you on the show, right?
Thank you.
Yes, we talked a little bit about it before you came on, how long I wouldn't even say necessarily known each other, right? We were
Right.
just two of the black girls in school together
Yeah.
in a predominantly white area. So
Yeah.
it's just like Kennesaw State in college. Like the black community was like, either I know you or I know who you are, but I don't know you like that.
Right.
Now it's
Exactly.
bigger. But it's an honor to have you on the show. It's been an honor to watch you grow and model. I'm so excited for
Thank
everything
you.
you've done.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, and for sure. Because one thing about Shannon, for Christine and all the listeners, the one memory I have of her is like real life. She treated the hallways like a runway. She always had
Mhm.
like some stellar heels on, and I was an underclassman, so I admired that. I was like, "Yes, girl, yes,
Mm,
Mhm.
yes."
yes.
From high school on, I love
High,
that.
yeah,
Alright.
That's what she remembers, and so
that's what I remember.
for you to be a model and for me to think you're so beautiful, and y'all, if you read the volume 1, I'm talking about my acne and stuff in high school, right? So Akili is this beautiful, beautiful melanated, high schooler with me. I'm like, she's modeling, she's on billboards. Y'all, I went to Pont City Market in the Village Market, which is a
Oh, yeah.
black-owned, like,
Mhm.
collaboration space. I said, "Akili, I saw you in the store," like,
Yes,
and for her to be talking about me with my
yeah,
Payless Hills, shout out to, to the musicians talking about Payless, Payless
And I
Hills strutting
yeah,
in Hiram, okay?
also love that you gave us that, Akili, because often
Eh,
Shannon talks about being a band nerd and being,
mhm,
when she's talked about high school on the show, she's talked about that portion of her high
mm,
school. So
yeah,
I didn't even have this vision of her going down the
mm,
yes.
hills like a runway. I love that
That is
vision.
the vision I have. She had this really cute haircut. She always
eh.
had some like cute jeans on, some heels. So like when I think about Shannon, that's what I, that's what I envision.
Thank
Isn't that
you.
funny? I love that. I love that because we all have that in our lives,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
We
mhm.
have a picture of people in our lives from a certain period sometimes, and
Yeah,
it's often one piece of them,
mhm.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it shows, like, how we think about ourselves as women and then what people
Mhm.
see, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking about how attractive I am, I wasn't thinking about I like to dress up to make myself feel good, right?
Mhm.
At that time, my dad had cancer, we just gone
Mhm.
through another divorce, moved again, brushing my teeth in the classroom. That's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking about, trying to dress up so I can keep these grades up and get this scholarship to go to college, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Um, and like we're talking about you being a model, Akili, and now helping people with their mindfulness and what's on the inside. They
Yeah.
remember, oh my goodness, the cheekbones, how she
Yeah.
looks in those jeans, her hair. And I'm like, I wonder if my dad's at home because the police were there this morning. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yep.
Like, what's
Mhm.
going on?
Yeah.
And still trying to show up as my best. And
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about today. And how do you be present and hold both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely resonates. I can definitely empathize with how that feels, and I think anybody can probably resonate with that, but as women, we're so used to like having to keep it together when the world is falling apart, and in some
Hmm.
ways that keeps us grounded, and in other ways it totally disassociates us from our body, and we're often learning how to come back into the body, and that's just a big part of my work, especially with modeling. So
Yes. So can you tell us about that? For me, it's about um, showing up in a way that I'm comfortable with. So I know when you leave the house, you might see anybody, right? Now, right now, I have my eyebrows done and foundation on. When I shipped these Shalo Glow orders finally this morning, I did not have my eyebrows done. And I saw this video talking about if you don't have your makeup done, then you might be a sociopath as a woman. They're just going to have to think I'm crazy.
Wait,
That's
wait, wait, wait,
Oh,
wait.
it's
What?
foolishness going on, Christine.
I was
wow.
about to
Yeah,
say,
that's what
yeah,
I said.
no,
Wow,
because you just
wow.
labeled me almost my whole life.
Whole life, didn't even
I
know
guess
it.
we're all some psychopaths because I
Yes.
mean, even me as a model, I don't really wear makeup. I
Come
don't
on,
really like wearing makeup.
come on. So, yeah. So it's that balance, how do you help your
Yeah.
clients do that? And can you talk about your journey through that? Because I know you talk about it so eloquently online.
Yeah, so I'll start with just like my introduction into modeling. I think all of us when we were younger wanted to be on Disney Channel and had that era, but outside of that, I never really envisioned that for myself. I never envisioned being a model and being on billboards and commercials. That was nothing that I really saw for myself outside of wanting to be on Disney Channel. There was that era.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so a lot of my work that I was doing in school creatively was like behind the scenes. I was a very much so behind the scenes, wanting to create the vision. And I would have friends that would be like, "Hey, will you model for me? Will you do this? Will you do that?" And I was always would just say like, "No, I'm not a model. Like, I'm a behind the scenes kind of girl." And a big part of it was my passion for creative direction, but I think a big part of it also was my self-esteem. Growing up, and Shannon, you may be able to relate to this, dealing with colorism and texturism, and in a predominantly white community,
Mhm.
even though I grew up in a home where my blackness was celebrated and melanated skin was celebrated. When I stepped out into the world, what was reflected back to me as beauty standards, it didn't look like me. So when I started modeling, I would say I was dealing with a lot of insecurities. I wasn't sure if I could live up to those things. And I just remember thinking the only way that I could ever start modeling is if I could find purpose in it. And being beautiful was cool, but it wasn't enough. And so my first ever big modeling job was with African Pride Hair Care. Definitely glory to God for that because that was just random. And when I started to work with them, and I would have young girls and family members come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, like I want to try this hair products. Oh, this is so beautiful." And I would literally have girls taking pictures of themselves next to the products and seeing themselves in me. I was like, okay, now I can do this. Because just like I said in the bio, for me, it's about representation. I think we had our few girlies. We had Kiki Palmer and Raven Simone, but for the
Yes.
most part, we didn't really see women that looked like us with textured hair or darker skin tone deemed beautiful. And so
Mhm.
if I can be that for other women and other girls, then I'm like, yeah, I could do that now.
Mhm.
So my journey with modeling is and still has been a journey of me exploring my self-worth and um, sharing self-love with others, and just using whatever platform I have to encourage and uplift people.
Yes. Shout out to Kiki and Akila. Okay, Akila and the
Mhm.
Bee.
Yes.
Listen.
Mhm.
Okay, listen to this interview. She was talking about how she chose to say yes to the role and the significance of it, and it definitely reminds me of what we do with Connected and Wisdom Press, Christine. And uplifting women's voices and everything,
Yeah.
Akili. So I hear what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that was my journey. And like I said, now because I've been through not only the ups and downs of the industry, because I've been through my own journey with self-love and self-care, and because embodying these different wellness modalities is a big part of how I show up in the world. That's just what I try to teach to others through life and platforms.
Yes. Can you talk to us more about yoga? I love stretching has been such a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Being physically active has helped me so much.
Mhm.
Um, how how do you go from where you said you were with your insecurities and
Yeah.
working through self-love and self-worth in high school to modeling to
Yeah.
now yoga and doing different community events?
Yeah, I know it's like 2 different worlds. I battle with that a lot because it's 2 different worlds.
I feel like it is and it isn't.
It is and it isn't, and
Let's talk about it.
yeah, it is and it isn't. So, again, I think even my journey and my introduction to mindfulness and yoga, again, started with mental health, started with self-love and self-care. When I was, growing up, I dealt with very chronic depression, very, very chronic depression. Um, and my first introduction to meditation was my therapist, my first ever therapist. And I remember being so intimidated by therapy because the only thing at that time that I knew about therapy was this is for crazy people. This is for people who have psych issues. And
Wow.
that's not me, having that conversation with myself.
Yeah.
And I remember my first therapist, her name was Darren, and she was a white woman. And I thought, well, what can she teach me? Like she won't understand my life. And she completely changed my life for the better.
Wow.
And she was a yoga instructor and a
Mhm.
meditation practitioner. And so she helped me discover my meditation practice. And through that practice, I realized I have everything that I need to heal
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
Yes, the medications are great. Yes, I have tools and resources, but I have everything that I need within my body, within my reach to heal and become the most fully expressed version of myself. And I think that ties into modeling because again, it all started with my self-love journey and learning to love myself. But also, I think we talked about this a little bit before in our chit chat that modeling industry is cutthroat. I mean, the average person is not picked apart by their waist size and their facial features. The average person doesn't have to step on a scale every quarter, and when that is your norm, or I always tell models, don't let that be your norm. It can be difficult to stay grounded in who you are.
Yes. So when they are models and they're modeling consistently, what I thought about when you said that was okay. So if I'm doing scalings and measurements and all this stuff when I go to work, right? I need to put in my schedule something else that is maybe not the same block of time, but that
Mm,
helps pour back into me. Is
yeah.
that what you're telling them to do, or is there another way to make it not the norm?
What I tell them is like, I believe in being a free thinker. I think in this industry, again, they try to normalize things that just aren't normal and shouldn't be normal and shouldn't be acceptable. So I have a little bit of a different approach. I'm just
Mhm,
like, I don't care what they say. Like,
mhm,
you decide what works for
mhm,
you. You
mhm,
don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to agree to everything. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. But where my practice with mindfulness comes in, and what I teach them is like as simple as affirmations. Before you go on set, affirm yourself. Don't let them decide who you are, what beauty is. Don't let them tell you who you are. Affirm yourself before you even walk in the room, because as soon as you walk in that room, they coming for you.
Yeah.
I think that's good for anybody. I hear
Yes.
you, Akila, like it's survival when you're
Mhm,
in the modeling industry and
mhm.
probably in television and
Yeah.
things like that. Um, but I think that's great advice for anybody listening to our show.
Mhm.
Like that
Mhm,
affirmation of ourselves and who we are.
mhm.
And yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
I
important.
agree.
Yeah, and it reminds me when we did a recording with Coach Co. We did a recording at my retail space, Akili,
Mhm.
talking about friendship. Coach Co is one of our social wellness authors, and I walked away from this conversation like, why am I not okay? Like, what happened? I thought we had a great conversation. Like what it was, and it was like the energy. And I said, why am I going into conversations not praying over myself? How am I?
Woo.
Why
Yeah.
am I walking into rooms and like I didn't put shea butter or prayer over myself? I just left myself
Heavy on the shea butter.
unguarded. You know what I'm saying? Heavy on the prayer too. Okay, that
Yeah.
if it's light, you feel it.
Yeah.
Um, and so just remembering that, and I love adding the affirmation to that because constructive feedback is important.
Yeah.
Constructive criticism and difficult conversations are going to happen. And sometimes people don't have the skills to balance it. They might not have the want to balance it, the will to
Yeah.
balance it, but it is important to make sure that you're coming from a healthy place when you show up as a team member or a collaborator.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think I will add that to what I do for myself because it's
Yeah.
really important.
I agree. It's important to remind yourself of why you're here, of your purpose, of your worthiness, and to just like, yeah, cover yourself and like the goodness of your creator. Know that
Yeah.
you're supposed to be here
Mhm.
and know that you are protected and covered and affirmed and all those things. So I
Yeah.
agree with that.
And it shocks me that you still felt the way that you felt. I always thought you were pretty. Saw you, gorgeous. Wasn't a question. Like, moved on. You know what I mean? Like, done.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you talk about coming from a place where you're celebrated at home to
Mhm.
going out in the world and now you're insecure,
Yeah.
what was the journey like for you from being like that to, "No, I'm beautiful. I'm worth everything
Oh,
that I dream of." Like, how did you what was the paradigm shift for you?
well, one thing that I always say, especially to parents, I do believe in planting seeds. I think you plant seeds in your kids, and maybe it takes root then, or maybe it takes root later. And I think that was um, a big part of my journey till this day. I mean, I
Mhm,
remember going to LA, having a hard time in LA, and knowing who to call to get that affirmation, which was my mom, which was my aunt,
mhm.
to be reminded of who I am
Right.
despite what everything and everyone else is saying. Um, but it was difficult. I mean, I think even till this day, that's something that's like an active practice.
Mhm.
It's an active practice.
Yeah.
But I think the pivotal moment for me when it came to really learning to love myself and see myself as beautiful is I talked about this recently. I'm trying to think of the pivotal moment. I really think it might have happened in high school though, because I
Mhm.
played sports in high school,
What'd
and
you
I
play?
I played volleyball.
Okay, I was about to
Me
ask you.
too.
Hey,
Yeah.
okay, I was a libero.
I totally went the jock route. Like I did. We were a small school, so I ran track, I ran cross
Yeah,
country, I played tennis, I played volleyball. My dad was a coach,
I
so
love that.
I didn't do the makeup or the dressing up because I was
Yeah,
often coming from the locker room, and you were good if I got a shower, and so like
exactly,
because we would work out an hour before school started, and
exactly.
then you'd have to like right.
Yep.
Exactly, but I think sports allowed for me to build a certain level of confidence. I think
Mhm.
it was community because yes, it's a
Mhm.
team, but it's community. I think community
Yep.
builds confidence. And I think learning, especially for women, skills that are outside of our physical appearance, and that's what volleyball did for me. It allowed me to suck at something and get better at it. It allowed me to learn how to depend on others. I had a really great coach who was also super affirming. Shout out to Coach Thomas. Um, I know all those girls stressed him out, but he was
Right.
great at affirming us, and so I think that was a pivotal moment for me. So when modeling came, um, that was a new world, but I had a sense of myself that was outside of that, which I think going back to what I said as far as what was my determining factor to go on that journey, I had to find purpose in it. It wasn't because I always ask that when I do workshops with models. I'm like, okay, so why do you want to be a model? Like, really ask yourself that, and make sure it's a reason that's outside of I want to be on a magazine cover or a billboard, because that'll probably come. That'll probably come. But you got to have a reason that's deeper than that to have longevity in this and still have yourself at the end of the day.
Yes.
Ooh, I think those are wise words. And I think it could apply to any industry.
For
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Really.
For
Mhm.
sure.
Right? What is your purpose?
Yeah, and that's why I say it's so and I definitely hear you on the different worlds, right? Because they definitely come from different places. It's different when you're at a modeling, uh, what is it, tryout or audition than when
Mhm.
you're in a yoga studio, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
whether it's hot or whatever type of yoga that it is,
Yeah.
it's completely different. I hear what you're saying, setting, but I think it's interesting when we come from like what we're given as an industry and then okay, but the operations of it when I'm in it, I need this and this for it to be sustainable. I
Yeah.
need the modeling and
You
me
do.
taking care of my body in a certain way to be
Yes.
sustainable. And so if you're going to have the whole conversation, it ends up looking like what you're doing. And that's why I was so excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's always like duality. I feel like I've always been multidimensional. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's because I'm a Gemini or what, but even growing up, I'm like, I have to choose one major. Like that doesn't make
Right.
sense to me. Like that, I was lost with that. And so I think with me being a yoga instructor and a model, it made sense to me. But it was difficult. I think especially when I was doing my yoga teacher training, because then you go so much deeper in the philosophy and you really just sift through yourself and your own ego. And it would feel like, okay, one moment I'm sitting on the floor, not caring what I look like, just talking about movement and breath. Okay, but when I leave here, I gotta go get on set where like it could be very vain and very shallow and very competitive. And it was
Mm,
difficult because I used to feel like I had to turn one version of me off and one version of me on. But again, I think when you reshape your mindset and your framework in any setting and allow for yourself to be fully expressed, you make room for all the different versions of who you are in every space.
Mm.
Christine is
yes.
Say
still in
that
that.
again, Akili. Say that again.
Yes, I think it's important to make room for every version of yourself. It doesn't matter. You don't have to choose one lane. I think to live a good life is to be fully expressed.
Right?
Yes. And it's so interesting. We had somebody on, I think it was the show. I think it was the podcast, and we were talking about, yes, the podcast. Was it last week, Christine? We had this guest, Akili, who had this huge breakup. And
Mhm,
I looked it up after the podcast and
mhm.
on BET, all this stuff, and it was actually like a huge
Wow.
racial his video with her went viral for the racial rant that he was
Mm,
ranting against her, right?
mm,
Mm.
And she was talking about her relationship with blackness and feeling like she had to lean more towards the whiteness, you know?
mm,
And so I'm hearing your story, us going to the same high school, growing up in a similar area.
mhm,
And it's so interesting because my family unit was different
mhm.
because I was in a step family. And
Okay.
so my sense of identity was like, the securest places in faith. You know what I'm saying? God tell I'm priceless, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. All
Yeah.
these things are going on, but if it's not in my control, I can give it up and trying to figure that out in each stage, you know. So when I came to this point of asking myself who I was, it was as a manager, right? And it's
Okay.
like, well, you guys are asking me to be this way, and I fought so hard to be who I am. And I was like, where'd that come from? When you fight so
Mhm,
hard to be who you are, what is that? What do you mean? You know? And that brought me back. Oh yeah. All these times people are like, why are you so smart? Why do you talk so well? All this and that. People I was in band with, my time, Akili was some classroom at Hiram, and I was playing with somebody during one of the breaks. I think the classroom was working, and I took his Skittles right on the desk behind. I was just playing, and he said, "I knew you would do that." And I said, "How?" And he took my hand, he rubbed it, right? Because
mm,
his parents, who were principals in the county,
yeah.
told him, conditioned him, right, that that's what it was. And
Mhm.
I was hurt because I was genuinely just playing. But
Yeah.
he took it as, and I had to remember that you might be playing, but different people will take it certain places.
Yeah.
And we can grow out of conditioning, we can learn things, we all have bias, all these things. But I was like, like he really took it as something to be like, yep, I knew that that would happen. And
Yeah.
so, you know, when we talk about professionalism now, I had to learn that you have to be yourself, like you said, hold on to yourself in the different spaces. And also, as a collaborator, how do you meet somebody where they are? Maybe not
Mm,
this person. Christine, I
yeah.
see you shaking your head. For the people that listen, Christine's over here shaking her head. Y'all know
Have you seen that meme?
which
My
mean
daughter actually sent it to me that said, if you have wronged me, even in elementary school, just know that my mama remembers and she don't
that
like
part.
you.
That
And
part.
I was having that feeling, like,
Mhm, mhm.
not your mom, I know that, but
No, I'm with you.
I care about you. And to hear
Yes.
that story, like I
Can you
felt
believe
that
that?
like rising
Like, what?
up in me, like, wait, what's his name? And I don't like him.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So, you know, and forgiveness is important. So you don't hold
Yeah.
on to these things. So you can be present in today's moment, like we're talking about for this physical wellness. Because if you hold on to all that,
Mm,
that's what we talk
mm,
about,
yeah.
chronic
Yeah,
illness
no.
and all the things, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I really had to come to, this is who I am. This is my why in different areas. And
Mhm.
if I need to change and speak Spanish, literally, okay, I can speak Spanish. I can practice Farsi. I can practice different languages. What I won't practice is being inauthentic, right?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
so trying to figure out what that looks like in different seasons is what I've been working on since then.
Yeah. And I think authenticity is such a beautiful word because it's something that we hear so often. But I think when we're kids, we're just that. We're
Yeah.
just the most authentic version of ourselves, period, point blank.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the lines, we lose sight of what that means. And then I think we get to a place of maturity where we're like, wait, like you said, like, who am I really after all these experiences and people telling me this is who I should be? Who am I really? And how can I show up authentically all the time?
Mhm.
Because I think that's what the world needs.
Yeah, and I think it's by being present, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's losing it. It's
Mhm.
like, not staying connected to it.
Yeah.
When you're a little kid, you could just be, and then the years in between, we're told to be like this, taught to be this way based on the environment that we're
Yeah.
in, and sometimes other people aren't checking in, and they
Yeah.
might not be checking in on themselves, so they're not teaching you to check in with yourself and see who are you today and what do you need and what is your why? Is it
Right.
still the same in this season compared to the last one, and what do you need to get there? You know?
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is. Me as a new manager in 2015 coming out of college is completely different than me as a manager now as a serial entrepreneur
Mhm.
leading. I'm like those are two completely different people.
Right.
Um, and still honoring who I've been and where I've been and saying, but you know how to do it a little different now and still show up
Mhm.
as yourself and still be better based on the feedback that you've gotten.
Mhm.
hmm What do you think about that and how you help your clients with yoga and how they think about what they're doing?
So when it comes to yoga, I mean, intention is everything. When it comes to yoga, I think yoga taught me that I should do everything with intention. At the start of practice, that's what we do. What are we going to dedicate this practice to? How are we going to anchor ourselves into the moment over and over again? And so, even though I had an idea of what that meant again before my yoga practice, now I like embody that daily all the time. Um, Again, even in my modeling career, because I think when we talk about authenticity, that's what it comes back to, because that's very subjective. Everybody's idea of what success means in this moment is different. Everybody's idea of what they want to receive out of an experience is different. And when you're secure in that, I think you just live like a more fulfilled life, because now your expectations aren't built on what somebody said it should be, you know? And I love what you said about authenticity and how you take all these little pieces of who you are along the way and it just keeps building and evolving and expanding,
Right.
because all of our experiences do matter and they do help create that, you know, lifelong purpose. 'Cause I think there's like little purposes and then there's like your purpose,
Right.
which is not
Right.
as like intimidating as people make it seem, but
Mhm.
it's just that thing that keeps you encouraged and motivated and knowing I have a reason to be here on
Yeah.
this earth.
Right. I keep thinking as y'all are talking, I want to drop this in because we talk about as we're building our versions of ourselves, especially as women, and I think we've talked about it on the show before, Shannon. But a book I read when I was in college called "Can't Buy Me Love: How Advertising Changes the Way We Think and Feel" by Jean
Ooh,
Kilborn.
Mm.
I don't
Um,
think we've talked about that one.
Oh, it's a powerful book. I'll put it in our show
Mhm.
notes.
Mhm.
But it is exactly what you're talking about, Akili, about the industry, not just you working in it, but how it impacts all of us, especially as women, because we're taught what is beauty, what is this. If you look like this, or if you wear these earrings, or if you do
Mhm.
this, then you're going to have love and connection.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of what you're saying is if we're in our bodies, if we're intentional, if we're purposeful, we're gonna have love and connection,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the power of that. But also, I think you said at the very beginning of the show, basically your inner authority. That's what we call it, an
Yeah.
inner authority of, "Oh, that's the veneer, or that's what the world wants us, but what do we know? With our
Mhm.
Yeah.
values and our truth, what do we know to be true?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Stephanie Harris says, "Finally happy with, 'I am who I am, and your approval is not needed.'"
True. Yes.
Yes. Shout
Yes.
out to Stephanie. That is my
Right?
manager and my mentors.
Oh,
Ooh,
Always
shout out
says
to
yay,
Stephanie.
that.
Yes, love the Stephanies. That's my godmom's name.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. But I
yeah.
I
do
had
wanna. Oh,
What
I'm
were you
sorry.
gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
Keely?
Well, just on what Christine said, I'm sure you guys are
Please.
familiar with is it Melody Beatty, Codependent No More?
mhm.
Um, on worthiness and just saying like we don't have to hustle for worthiness. We don't have
Right.
to do anything. We're worthy of love and connection and relationship and, or whatever, just as we are. And that's like how I navigate life in this industry. Like
Mhm.
it's weird. I'm in the industry, but I'm like so anti-industry. Like
Mhm.
I ask God all the time, like, so why did you choose me to do this again? Because I'm like, yeah.
'Cause you're holding the door open and helping people with their mental health.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes, it's very important, you know. We talk about Enneagram a lot, and it's one of
Mhm.
the things that, help me understand my personality. And mine is an 8, the challenger, right?
Mm.
So it's difficult being challenging, and now I'm in a new system, and guess what? Challenging. Wait, but what about this? What about and it's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
every other people like, yeah, 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 like this
Mhm,
should run smoother, or this should be like this, or
mhm.
I had this idea, and then it opens things up. Um,
Mm.
and to allow, even if they're not like you, we talked about the representation and
Yeah,
little girls seeing themselves in you, but it's
yeah.
also, um, even if they see themselves as different, space for the different,
Oh, yeah,
it's important.
absolutely. Lots of
Mhm,
space for the different. I mean, at
mhm,
the end of the day, they try to say, like, we should all be the same, but we're all different. We're
mm.
literally all different. So
We're all
there's
unique.
room for your uniqueness because really
Yes.
that's, like, the only thing that exists, in my opinion. Like,
Yes, that's the
exists.
only thing that's real. It
Yeah.
reminds me of this song, I think it's like Tiny Homes or something like that,
Mhm.
talking about all the little homes being the same. That's not how life is. God
No.
doesn't love us the same, he loves us uniquely. I loved when I heard that at
Uniquely.
church. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I love how you hold both,
Yeah.
being beautiful, modeling, and also, "Imma take care of myself, though." It is important to say, "Hey, y'all, it was just the holidays. It makes sense for me to be my heaviest at this point." And then,
Yeah.
"Hey, I was fasting for January. It makes sense
Yeah.
for me to be the lightest at this point, and it
Exactly.
fluctuates, and this is how I showed up today."
Yes, just making room for everything. And earlier you guys spoke on it, just how like even when we talk about grief and um, what's the opposite of grief? Joy. Maybe, you
Mhm,
know, the truth is there has to be room for both
mhm.
because we're gonna be in either one season or the other. And I think when you look at life like that, it's just like I'm making room for both. I'm making room for everything. I'm making room for the duality, the polarity, and just accepting just the beautiful everything about life and embodying that all the time. And just going back to what we said earlier, like how it was like weird for me for a long time to be in the yogic side and the model side, but then again, remembering that is how life is supposed to be. Like we're
Mhm.
supposed to be multidimensional. Life is supposed to have balance and yin yang. And when you embody that and just appreciate it for what it is, you get to live out your most authentic version of yourself because you're not like trying to shrink yourself into something that's not real.
Right. And you're not, stealing from yourself the opportunity to do both. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I have to do this part, but what about this part? It's easy to sometimes do that. Um,
Mhm.
I see you,
Mhm.
Christine, with the wisdom in action. Akili, we talk about it every week. What are we
Okay.
doing intentionally to be mindful and sustain our wellness in this dimension? So with
Okay.
physical wellness, what are you working on this week?
So this week, this season, I'm working on leaning into to my rituals and routines. You guys talked about that earlier too. It's funny because I actually have a quote that I wanted to read, so I'm gonna pull it up really quick because it really
Yes,
embodies everything right now, and it's by speaker, teacher, author Debbie Brown. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her. I love her, and
I
she
think
says, "Yeah, your rituals are tools that ground, regulate, and connect you to yourself."
mhm,
So that is my goal. For me, that looks like when I wake up, taking some time to just stare out the window and let my brain wake up, grounding into meditation, grounding into prayer, journaling, and devotion, and then movement through yoga. Um, Not only just for the physical wellness of that, of stretching and breathing and getting my blood moving, but again, what we said earlier, coming back into my body, reclaiming my body, my mindfulness, especially in seasons of unrest and craziness.
Mhm.
Shout out to our elders and ancestors like Rosa Parks and
Yes.
Angela Davis, who embodied those practices and reclaimed themselves through those practices. So that's what that looks like for me this week, and hopefully this season, this year, and ongoing.
Yes. Yes. Love that. What about you, Christine? What's your wisdom in action this week?
My wisdom in action, I think being inspired by Akili is I
Yes.
think I'm gonna stretch more. Like,
Mhm.
I miss
Yes.
my practice. I had an injury a while back, Akili, and I got out of
Mhm.
routine. So I think
Mhm.
I'm just gonna be gentle with myself and just say
Yeah.
stretch more. And that
Yeah.
can be with my activism, that can be with my
Yes.
body, that can be with my learning. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. What about you,
I
Shannon?
love that.
So many things. So many things. Let's say physical wellness. What I'll say is hashtag get outside.
Yeah.
Right? I made sure to do that today. I told you ladies I did it again, right? Went outside again. And yesterday I did really well. I said I'm not going to run, but even when I don't run, I want to walk, right? Making sure that I'm not just walking to the car to go to work or walking to, for somebody else, walking for myself. And so I'll say get outside because we're about to
Love
start a lot of work. Thank you. Yes, we're about to be in front of the computer, having meetings around the world again. Things are gearing up for the year, and want to make sure we're getting that outside time. That yes, that vitamin D, and just like we're talking about the presentness, watching the birds, looking at the trees, and
Mm.
enjoying the moment.
Mm,
That's
I
Hmm.
love
beautiful.
that.
Thank
And
you.
I also just want to give you a shout out
Mm.
because being outside today was, it wasn't one of those days that you're like, "Ooh, let me run outside."
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I'm
Yeah,
inspired by that because
yeah.
usually
Thank you.
nobody sees me outside till the springtime. So
Right.
Right?
I like to use the winter to like reset. If it's supposed to reset your nervous
yeah.
system, okay, let's reset a little bit. Let's step outside for a second. And then I'm so grateful to be able to step inside to the warmth and whatever
Mhm.
resource I want to grab. There's running water, at food, you know what I mean? Like all types of fun
Yeah,
options. So yeah, that's where I've been living with it.
I love that.
So thank you, Akili. Please let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you if they want to come to these events. Where do you usually
Mhm.
post your tickets? Let them know how they can connect.
Okay, so thank you everyone for listening. My name is Akili Yasmine, and you can find me on Instagram at Soulful Akili, SOLFULAKILI. Right now, I teach in person in different studios around Atlanta, so you can find that on my Instagram. But I will be starting my virtual yoga soon, so we will
Excited.
connect virtually very soon. And yeah, super grateful to be having this conversation again.
Yes, absolutely.
And we
Mhm.
will put all that in show notes for listeners. If you are listening while you're driving or running or walking or whatever, don't worry. Just come to womenconnectingwisdom.com, check out our
Right.
show notes,
Mm,
or wherever you listen to your podcast, where our
Mhm,
show is there, and you can tap in and
mhm.
connect with Akili. Akili, so lovely to
yeah,
meet you. Thank you
thank
so much
you.
for being here and being connected. And we're just grateful, grateful to know you.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you guys are doing. Thank you for amplifying your voices and our voices. And yeah, I'm excited to continue to support.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Mm, so fun. So fun. I'm just loving our guests. Like, I mean, I've
I
always
know.
loved our guests. Like,
I know.
what are we on? 184.
184, yeah.
But we started out with friends who we have some high quality friends, and
Come on.
Akili gets in there too from your
Come
high
on.
school. But
You know?
lately we've been talking to a lot of people across the world and
My
across the
goodness.
nation. And I
Yeah.
love popping in with somebody who's local, who knows you from
Mhm.
high school, who has a
Yeah.
beautiful message to share. Like,
Yes.
this is fabulous, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I love it. And I think about, we were talking about the work of podcasting and Hybrid Publishing before today's
Mhm,
podcast and working for free and what you would do and purpose and profitability.
mhm,
And, we'll work on the profitability, we'll work on the sponsors. We talked about that at the beginning of the year.
mhm.
But each week I come back to the computer and I'm like,
Mm,
I love this part of the week. I'm so glad we get to
right?
do this. Like, I'm
Right?
so glad we get to have these conversations and meet these
It's
ladies, and
great.
it's amazing.
I can be tired and just be like, it is so fun. Stephanie, thanks for being here with
Thank you,
us today.
Stephanie.
Yes,
Yes.
Akili was fabulous. Thank
Yes,
you.
it
And we're glad
was.
you were here listening. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm with you, Shannon. Like, so fun. And tonight we have something fun really going on. Do you want
Yeah,
to
we
let our
do.
listeners know what's happening?
Yes, so y'all, we talked about hybrid publishing, and publishing has changed a lot over the last decade, right? The last 20 years. And so we have an introductory called Why to Be a Connected and Wisdom Press Author. As an author, you have a lot of different options of ways that you can get your message out there. And we love supporting you in a very specific way. You know, when we do our ebook, when we do our printed book, when we do the audio book, there's certain steps that we go through in community. And like Akili said, you know, community, what does she say? Where are my notes? Community builds confidence. I love
Mm,
that. I definitely think it
mm.
does through the writing
Yes, it
process, you
does.
know? And so we're starting tonight. If you want to know why be a Connected and Wisdom Press author, a little bit more about hybrid publishing, a little bit about what we're going to be doing between now and October, we have that information. Where is that information, Christine? On our link tree on Instagram?
It is. You can find it on Linktree. You can
Yes.
find it from clicking through to Instagram. You
Mhm.
can find it on our show notes, which, if you're listening live, it's probably best to go to our Instagram and look on our
Mhm.
Linktree.
Okay.
But if you're listening afterwards and you missed a class, know that you can get a recording also. It's not
Yes.
too late. Never too late with us to jump in and get in with the flow.
Right. And what I will say though is a little caveat there, because it is March 15th. Right now is the window of time that we have planned for the 24 that we want. So you can absolutely be part of Women Connected in Wisdom. Again, we have the 184, and we'll see which episode we're at by March 15th. But if you want to be part of the cohort for volume 3 and not a future volume, let us know. Get connected so we can count you in the 24, and we're super excited about starting this. Oh, and guys, in addition to tonight, next week, don't forget that we have moved our Connected in Vision. And I was thinking about it, Christine. It really does feel right in time with everything getting
Hmm.
geared up and organized, right? So if you want to come build your vision boards, we are still going to be talking through the 8 dimensions of wellness, building our vision together, and again, collaborating in purposeful community. So you're invited to that. And that link for Humanitics is also on our link tree.
Right? And on our show notes. So,
Beautiful.
so good, as always, my friend, to be having the conversation
Mm.
and to be in community with you and to have really fun things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love, you know, conversations like this, especially after COVID, with everything going on. People, women trying to, you know, present themselves well. They want to get dressed up sometimes. Different things are happening, but we don't want to come from a vain place. We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, you know. So how to really hold both, how to be present for wellness in the moment. I love this conversation.
Mm, me too.
Yes. Okay, y'all. Well, we will be wrapping season 22 next week. We'll be talking about all 8 dimensions, all of the guests that we've had. So if you missed one, if you want to tap into all the resources, join us live at 5 Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll talk to you soon.